figure it out. We'll get to that eventually. What's going on, everybody? November 14th, Wednesday, monster slate, 11 games. I counted them earlier. I should really just put a formula in here to count them myself so that I don't have to be wrong every day. It's a very different slate tonight than it is coming from yesterday. So, Adam, are you excited for this 11-gamer?
Yeah, I'm a lot more excited than I was yesterday. I kind of feel like it's going to be not easier because there's 11 games, but probably not as difficult to figure out as yesterday was, just because yesterday we had so many moving pieces for that slate. It was really just more effort than I wanted to put in on a 3-game slate, but at least an 11-gamer, I generally enjoy the bigger ones, so should be fun.
Chat's sort of mentioning it right now, so I'd love to get your take. I'm going to guess you and I are on the same page here, but what is your take on the Kevin Durant, Draymond Green dust up, so to speak?
I haven't read any of the stuff that came out like in The Athletic yet about what actually is going on. But my take from that game was, I mean, just even watching it live, I completely understood why Durant was pissed off. Green grabbed a rebound right next to Durant with the clock running out and then just like kind of dribbled it 3 steps and fell down instead of just giving Durant the ball. Like I completely understood why Durant was pissed off. I haven't followed though any of the background stuff or what Durant may or may not have said.
Yeah, ignoring all of the extra talk about it, I mean, he should pass that ball to Durant. Durant's actually behind him in the play. I thought like he missed Durant on the wing when I first heard about it, and then he was just like clapping and looking for it. But like, it's not as if Durant was, you prefer Durant to have the ball there. It wasn't a gigantic problem to me.
Yeah, he didn't like look him off and then keep going.
No.
It to me, watching it live, and I could be wrong because I didn't watch the replay, but my initial thought live was that either of them could have grabbed the rebound and Green kind of just grabbed it and took off, which, if that's the case, that would make more sense for Durant to be pissed off too. And that's how I saw it, at least, live, watching it at full speed. It was that it kind of was just a 50-50 ball and you would want Durant to take it, and Green just kind of took it and took off down court.
Yeah, like I don't mind if Dre is pushing the ball quickly there. I think that's smart. I don't want him to take the shot. You just never got to that point.
Yeah,
I thought it was weird. Like I get why they're arguing. There's obviously something way bigger going on to make this into a story, because to me it was just like heat of the moment, NBA game type stuff. I would scream at a friend of mine in that pickup game, and then we would just go get a beer afterwards.
Right, exactly. It wouldn't carry over into the locker room.
No. So there's obviously like deeper shit there than just Durant didn't get the ball.
Right. And did you read the article that came out on The Athletic about it?
Not yet, but I have the email saved. God bless The Athletic.
I read like the headline or whatever, or the byline, whatever the hell it's called, like the little part that you can see before you actually log into the site and read it.
Yeah.
But it was talking about like Durant holding his free agency over everyone's head, and Draymond like personally insulting Durant. So it seems like something that's probably been brewing for a while.
Apparently, yeah. I'm going to manually type out this tweet because it apparently isn't going out manually. NBA DFS strategy, Wednesday. What the fuck's today? 11/14.
What did I retweet if it didn't go out?
The Periscope link, I guess?
Yep.
Yeah, the Periscope one goes out pretty cleanly immediately all the time. The Twitter one, for some strange reason, doesn't. So. Sometimes you just got to manually do it. Why nobody talking about Tristan Kardashian's 21 boards? Bill Butler, everybody.
That was I think it was Empire Maker, probably one of the more serious tweets I've ever seen from him, asked if Thompson had stopped having sex with Kardashian. And I feel like that's a legitimate question at this point with how well Thompson's playing.
I remember seeing that tweet last night. Or started having more sex with other people
to like outweigh the effect of Kardashian.
Yeah.
It had to be going one direction or the other. Like something changed.
God. I mean, it's probably not even. He's probably just sad that he picked the worst one.
Is there a best one?
Caitlyn.
Who?
Caitlyn?
Oh, wait.
No? I thought that was a good joke.
I thought it was. It would have been better if I had been 100% confident that there wasn't a sister named Caitlyn.
Yeah, no, just the dad.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, but I was like trying to like run through their names in my head, and I wasn't sure.
But no, really, she's the worst one. And did you say is there a best one? I mean,
Yeah.
if we mean just Kardashians, then probably no. But if we're talking like the entire brood, then yeah, Kendall.
Yeah, okay, that's
She's
fair.
just like naturally good looking and hasn't changed physically. She's the one that looks most like a human being still. Oh, Bill Butler. Look how Lamar Odom ended up. Yeah,
Yeah,
eating candy and whorehouses. Anyway, 11 games. It's gonna take a bit, so we should probably dive into this. Missed cash by 6 with Bobo ass Miles Bridges. I blame you, Josh. Yeah, you should.
I missed cash by like 20 with bum ass Amari Spellman. So
Amari Spellman's the weird one.
yeah, I didn't see his minutes going down. I thought he was pretty locked in to a floor with some ceiling, but
Alex Len
apparently
played
that was
30 plus
wrong.
minutes.
What'd you say?
Alex Len played like 34 minutes or something stupid.
Yeah, Len played 32. Poitras played. Poitras might have played more than Spellman or played like the same as Spellman.
If you, how much Alex Len would you have if you knew he played 32 minutes last night?
I would have
100%.
100%.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't even bat an eye if you told me Alex Len's going to play 32 minutes today, especially on DK at 4,400. He's in every single one of my lineups.
Right. I would have treated him exactly like I did Larry Nance.
Yeah, it's there you go. All right, let's get into this. Nope, we're not on that game. Happened to be what I had typed in. Starting with the Orlando Magic hosting the Philadelphia 76ers. 107.5 implied total for the Magic, 113 for the Sixers, and we should have, by all accounts, the debut of Jimmy Butler in Philadelphia. We're not starting there. We're starting on the Orlando side where, I don't know, that they have guys on the team. I mean, I get like Mo Bamba on FanDuel for 4K is someone that I would look at, but to me, everybody's sort of priced where they should be, and I don't have a ton of interest on anything. Do you like anything from Orlando tonight?
Not really that I love. I mean, Bamba, we're just seeing basically play the backup center minutes. So as much as I would like him to start getting more minutes at the 4 and becoming more DFS viable, it's just not really getting there yet. You know, Vooch and Gordon, it's kind of the same conversation that we have every day where they're a little bit more expensive than I would like. They certainly have upside, but they're not guys that I can really prioritize. Fournier's price tag is fair now. It's not as low as it was before. There's not really anything here for me. Jonathan Isaac being questionable could, muddy things even more.
That is a very true statement. It just thins out everybody else. And I have Isaac in right now, so maybe that is part of the reason why I find everybody so visually unappealing. But Mo Bamba for 4K is just something that I'll take a look at, and I like it a little bit more on FanDuel just because you get 3 points for a block, and he could go crazy with those at 4K. Then it doesn't take much to hit value. But other than that, I mean, it's just I'm much more interested on the opposite side. So let's talk about Philly. And I think we need to start with Embiid. 11K on FanDuel, 10.5 on DraftKings. Normally, I would say this is, as usual, a good spot for Embiid. I'm not confident I want to pay up for Embiid now that Butler's there. Not yet.
No, I'm with you. I mean, there's no questioning that Embiid still has the same kind of upside that he had before, but we have no idea how to really project him when you factor in, Jimmy Butler. He's going to take shots. He's going to handle the ball. Embiid, obviously is someone that does everything on the floor. It's not like he's a guy who gets most of his points just off of putbacks, and it doesn't really matter if Jimmy Butler's taking shots. He wants the ball in his hands. He makes plays. So I think Butler probably has a negative impact, at least in terms of projection. And on an 11-game slate, I'm perfectly fine just kind of waiting this team out and seeing how things look with Jimmy Butler there.
Completely agree. Similar story for me for Simmons. 9,500 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DK. I don't mind it as much on DraftKings. 87 is at a place where I could still see Ben Simmons doing well with Butler there, but kind of want to see it first. I don't have any interest really in Butler at 8,700 or 8,200. I just don't know how this team is going to shake out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem for me. I'm more concerned about Simmons than I am Embiid because if he doesn't have the ball in his hands offensively, he's absolutely useless. So Butler being there really concerns me as far as Simmons' value, from a DFS perspective. I'm sure it'll make it work from a basketball perspective, but if you have another, ball handler out there, I think it really, really hurts Simmons in particular as far as DFS goes. And yeah, you're not getting a discount on Butler either. And now we have to see how he fits in with Simmons and with Embiid. And or at least I assume that he's probably not going to come in and just start like punking Embiid the way he did Karl Anthony Towns.
No.
So, maybe you don't see as much usage for Butler either. It's just a really weird spot here where I'm not all that interested on this slate.
Butler's in a weird spot too, where he can't go at Embiid like he went at Towns because Philly will turn on Butler and not Embiid.
Exactly.
He will lose that visually in the media. Embiid is like their dude.
Right.
Philly doesn't fuck around like that.
Yeah. And Embiid doesn't seem like the kind of dude that's going to just take it from him either.
Mm-mm. No, not at all. And I think that helps that Embiid is known for defense sort of more than offense if we're in general. And I think that will probably play a little bit better. It's not like Butler's going to be like, oh, you soft on the defensive end. Embiid will be like, no, I'm the defensive player of the year or finished second. I can't remember if him or Gobert ever win that stuff. I think he was first team all NBA, but not defensive player of the year. Was that right? I can't keep track of it anymore. Anyway, I don't have a ton of interest in Embiid, Simmons, or Butler. If I get any, I'm cool with it, but there will not be volume here.
Right, and if anything, when I'm inputting their rates, I'm going to err on the low side.
Yeah, the one guy that I'm going to have here on FanDuel is probably Wilson Chandler. It's flat minimum salary, and that's just sort of appealing to me if he can play mid-20s minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we saw 23 last game when he was on a 20-minute limit, so I assume that we get into the mid-20s here. And, Butler coming in, obviously it soaks up a bunch of minutes, but they lost two key rotation guys that were playing 30-plus minutes a night, so there's still minutes there for Wilson Chandler, and he's not someone that is he's the kind of guy that'll, especially at his price tag, he'll just get there off of, peripheral stats and just being on the floor. So I'm not, really concerned about who he's playing with.
Agreed. Anybody else? Fultz, Redick,
No.
Anything?
No, I mean, Redick should get plenty of open looks, but all the looks he gets, I assume will be open. He should be really efficient with this team.
It's not enough.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows how much he's going to get.
There we go. I didn't mention it before, but please like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the video so you know when we go live. And use the code NBA Strategy, which is on the screen right now. 7-day free trial. Includes any package you want to do. If you're interested in using Fantasy Cruncher, make sure you select a package that includes Fantasy Cruncher. Also, shout out to the boss man, Osimo. Big win last night in another tournament. Bringing in that bread. It's the goal. Let's move on to Wizards and Cavs. Wizards 116 implied total, Cavs 104. I don't understand how yesterday happened. 12-point favorites for the Wizards at home today against Cleveland. We'll start with John Wall, who is 10,200 on FanDuel, 9,100 on DK. Price is slowly getting to a point where I'm going to have some trouble, but I mean, this is as good of a spot as it gets. I don't know how to manage it.
I'm a little less, actually a lot less interested in Wall tonight than I have been previously for a couple of reasons. For one, he played 33 minutes against Orlando, and Brooks said after the game that he felt like he'd been playing Wall too much. He needed to pull back on his minutes. I don't know if 33 is the number going forward. I kind of would doubt that, but I'm not projecting Wall to play 40 minutes a night anymore. Now that we know Brooks is, actually consciously making decisions not to do that. It can still obviously happen, but I'm going back to projecting Wall for 36 minutes and not 40. So at a rising price tag, that makes a difference. And also, and it sucks because we can't get play type data on NBA.com anymore, but Cleveland has actually, I believe, been pretty good at defending pick and roll this season. So taking ball dominant point guards against them actually has not been great. Everyone else has been great, but they've actually been doing a pretty good job against that. It's something it showed in the numbers before NBA.com took them away, and then just kind of anecdotally looking at stuff since, they've shut down Kemba twice. He's one of the leaders. So I think that it's kind of a spot where I would rather go to some of these other cheaper guys on Washington.
I would agree. I mean, some of these prices on DraftKings in particular for the Wizards are very appealing. Chat made a good point. Also, shouts to Jake Hari, our lead NHL guy. I think he banked like 2 days in a row for NHL.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So it was either 2 days in a row or like 2 days out of 3. So if you're not playing NHL and you want to, Osmo.com is the place to do it. Go follow Jake. Bradley Beal, 8,700 on FanDuel, 7,500 on DK. Now this one's got to be a little bit more appealing to you, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. Beal obviously is a very productive player. He can score. He does a little bit of playmaking as well, so he's not completely scoring dependent like he has been in previous years. And he's playing big minutes as well. Even if you hypothetically see Brooks cut back on all of his starters, it still puts them at normal starters minutes. It just means that he's not trying to kill them anymore. You still saw 37 minutes against the Magic from Beal. So I'm still very comfortable projecting him in that 36, 37 minute range. And the price tag's just too cheap for, the kind of upside that he has.
Speaking of price tags that are too cheap for upside, Dwight Howard is $7,400 on FanDuel and ridiculous $5,800 on DraftKings. I mean, he has to be one of the more popular plays of the day at that price on DraftKings. I assume you're going to have a ton of him. Is there something I'm missing?
No, I agree with you. I'm really interested to see where his ownership comes in, though, because, it's an 11-game slate, so obviously you see lower ownership anyway.
Yeah.
But people really have not been rostering him because they rostered him a lot at the beginning, like his first couple of games where he was cheap. He was consistently around 25% owned, and he never really came through for one reason or another. He hasn't had a big game yet this year. Yeah. But like on whatever day, Monday, he was 6,100 against Orlando. He was 7% owned. Obviously, that was a really weird slate where there was a million good plays, but this is a bigger one as well. He also didn't close that game, which is concerning. They went with the smaller Jeff Green, Kelly Oubre, Markieff Morris lineup, but I think that also has to do with the fact the Wizards went on a 21-9 run with that unit on the floor. So I still think that the plan would be for Dwight Howard to close this game and play around 34 minutes. So I love the price tag on Howard. I'm not saying that I'm going to shy away from him if he's popular. I'm just hoping that he actually doesn't even get that popular.
Yeah, I would want like an overwhelming amount of Dwight Howard on DraftKings at 5,800. Outside of him getting injured, it'd be really hard for him to kill you at that price.
Right. It's really hard for him to fail. And just because he hasn't had that good game yet this year, he's still getting acclimated to a new team. He's still playing through an injury that he has said is bothering him. His rebounding hasn't been to the level where we would expect it to get to. There's nothing but upside at this price point for Dwight Howard.
Exactly. Completely agree. It almost makes me want to play DraftKings just to get him. Like 7,400 on FanDuel is fine. He's still a nice value and a completely acceptable center option, but on DK, you can still play another center. It's just too cheap.
Right, absolutely.
Otto Porter for you, 4,800. Another guy that I think is probably just too cheap.
Yeah, I think the entire Wizards front court is too cheap.
Yeah.
For Porter, he's someone that never really projects that well for me, and he's, I think, the riskiest guy here because he's just like being in the doghouse isn't the right word with this Washington team, but there was the stuff early in the season where he was complaining about not getting shots, and you had John Wall and Bradley Beal. Basically, they didn't call him by name. They just referred to people being worried about their shots. And then you had Scott Brooks in the media just call out Otto Porter by name and say that basically he needs to shut the hell up. And then after the Orlando game, Scott Brooks said that Porter didn't play the fourth quarter because he needed more energy defensively, and basically said that Porter will have some good games and some bad games, and that was not a good one. It's just a weird spot for Porter where he seems like the one most likely to lose minutes to Kelly Oubre, who is actually good. So I think it's the riskiest minutes, but that's not to say that Porter can't beat a $4,800 price tag, because he can. I just think I'd rather go to Markieff Morris. I feel better about him. When he stays out of foul trouble, he's getting the majority of the backup center minutes. You get Jan Mahinmi getting a little bit, but Morris has at times been staggering. He played fourth quarter center minutes against Orlando. And either way, he's someone that when he stays out of foul trouble should get you at least, around 32 to 34 minutes at a really, really cheap price tag.
I'm liking Kelly Oubre from a FanDuel perspective. 4,200 on FanDuel, 4,100 on DK. It's just a nice price in my opinion. So he'll be somebody I use as a value guy. Any Jeff
Yeah.
Green narrative tonight?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. But I was going to say, this is a Washington team, I think, that because it's such a good matchup and their entire front court is so cheap, this is a spot where I think spending some time and really thinking through your groupings, if you're max centering, makes a lot of sense, because there's basically two ways. If this game stays competitive, there's basically two ways that it goes. And one is that, it closes with all the starters out there. The other is what we've seen in actually both games against Orlando, where the second unit gets hot and you end up with Jeff Green playing a ton of minutes in the fourth quarter. You end up with Kelly Oubre playing a ton of minutes in the fourth quarter. So you don't want, like Porter and Green overlapping, and you don't want like to have Howard, Morris, and Green, because like two of them are closing.
Right.
But there's upside for whoever is in the closing lineup for Washington tonight.
It's a great point, especially because, the closing lineup for this game, in theory, would very likely be Thomas Satoransky, Austin Rivers, Jan Mahinmi. That's
giving the Wizards way more credit than they deserve.
Talk to Vegas, man. I think they're the biggest favorites on the slate.
That is absolutely insane to me.
Yeah. Speaking of favorites, I need to see if those two other games have lines out. I just threw stuff in there so I could put my projections out, but they do indeed.
Just to expound on that point about the fact that they're 12-point favorites at home. I know Cleveland's bad. Orlando had a double-digit lead halfway through the third quarter at Washington in Washington's last game. I mean, this team just does not play defense.
No, they certainly do not.
And they don't rebound. Larry Nance is going to go nuts, but we'll get there.
Let's get there right now. Larry Nance, 6,300 on FanDuel, 5,500 on DK. I assume he's going to be very popular. This whole Cavs team, pretty much an incredible value on DraftKings. Nance is one of the guys that I want. He's probably the best point per minute guy on the team. So give me some Nance, but I don't ever feel comfortable with it.
So there's one thing that really stood out from last night's game that I'm really excited about for Nance. We had talked on the show yesterday, on the Deeper Dive show, about how Nance was too cheap for any position he's playing, but that he is more productive when he's playing center and not playing the four, because of the type of player he is. Any amount of time he spends closer to the rim to get rebounds, to get putbacks, is really productive for him. And since Chetty's injury, we had seen him playing exclusively at the four with Ante Zizic backing up Tristan Thompson. So it was really good to see in the second half yesterday, Larry Nance subbed in as the backup center. He got backup center minutes. He closed that game at center. And this is a matchup with Washington where I would fully expect that to happen, because outside of whatever minutes Jan Mahinmi plays, Washington's going to go small. So yeah. I fully expect Nance to get, if not all, at least a nice share of the backup center minutes behind Tristan Thompson against one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. And a lot of those minutes will be without Dwight Howard on the floor. So Washington will be just even worse at rebounding. I think it's a spot where Thompson goes nuts, but Larry Nance does as well.
I don't know what to do with Thompson. He's a guy that grades out incredibly bad in my stuff, and I don't really know what to do to fix it. Or maybe I shouldn't be doing anything to fix it. I should just trust it.
I mean, I think this is a spot where he should do great.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Let's see. Caitlin dropped Doug Martin for a wide receiver today. Should I get him instead? Wife's doing fantasy football right now.
Yeah, I was like, who the hell is Caitlin?
Look, it makes sense that Tristan Thompson would have a big game here. He is a rebounder against a team that can't rebound. But when push comes to shove, I've got him as a 0.42 points per possession guy. So, call it 0.9 per minute. I have a hard time projecting him for anything crazy there. Everybody else is a really good value on a per dollar basis except for him. So I'm either dramatically underestimating his ability to put up points on a per minute basis, or I'm right. And I feel like I'm right, but I've been wrong for 3 out of the last 4 days.
Right. And I mean, I do agree with you. Paying, using DraftKings price as a talking point, paying $5,800 for Tristan Thompson on an 11-game slate isn't great, because he has such a track record. I mean, we know who he is. It's just that he is playing a ton of minutes right now for Cleveland, and this is a spot where Dwight Howard hasn't been rebounding as effectively as he probably will later in the season. Outside of Dwight Howard, this team's absolutely atrocious rebounding, and then you have someone whose entire offensive game is grabbing rebounds and just putting it back in.
So I'm going to bump his minutes up slightly here, but I'm going to pose a question to you because I don't think we've noticed this yet until right now. You might have already. Dwight Howard, 5,800 on DraftKings. Tristan Thompson, 5,800 on DraftKings. What do you think the real gap between their projections should be?
It's tough because Dwight, I don't know how actually healthy Dwight is right now. Sure. But I mean, Dwight is a better DFS player than Tristan Thompson. There's no question in my mind about that. So I think Dwight should be projected higher.
I've got an 8-point gap between the two right now.
I think it's probably not backing this up with anything outside of just kind of intuition, but I would say maybe 5.
Okay. What do you think the ownership gap between the two will be?
That's really interesting because Thompson was 30% last night and dropped 45 points.
Right.
I could see them kind of being even.
In that case, Dwight Howard, you should want to have 2 to 3 times more Dwight Howard than Tristan Thompson, in my opinion. If you knew they were both at 15, we'll say, the amount I would want Dwight Howard more than Tristan Thompson is shocking.
Yeah, I agree with that. And part of that's basing, it's because of Tristan Thompson's history, but at the same time, it's Dwight Howard versus Tristan Thompson. It's a great matchup for Tristan Thompson. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be interested at his price.
Yeah, Dwight, man, it's crazy.
Dwight, $5,800 Dwight against any team in the NBA, I would be pounding the table to play Dwight Howard. Tristan Thompson, it's solely because he's one of the most efficient offensive rebounders in the NBA, and he's facing the Wizards.
God, I'm not going to have any Tristan Thompson again tonight. I can't. I hope he bombs.
On DraftKings, you can play both.
Well, sure. I would be much more likely to have him on DK. I certainly wouldn't have him on FanDuel. I'm going to sneeze. Talk about Jordan Clarkson, 6K and 5,600.
It's a spot that I really like Clarkson again. We got 27 and a half minutes from him yesterday, but he left that game with 3 minutes to go because the Cavs were, up by 25 points or whatever it was. So if you project that out to about 30 and a half, 31 minutes, that's really nice for Clarkson, who is basically the guy that has to score for this team. He's still coming off the bench, which is nice. We'll get him out there against, the likes of Austin Rivers. So that's nice. Washington has been terrible defensively all year, but their second unit in particular has been atrocious basically every year that I can remember watching them. So, they're different guys. The names always change, but it never gets any better. And Scott Brooks, for whatever reason, insists on barely staggering or not staggering any of his starters with the second unit. So that's a big reason why they're bad, and they're bad defensively. So I think it's a spot where Clarkson should do really well. We saw him close alongside Larry Nance last night. Tristan Thompson did not close that game, but David Nwaba did. So I would expect a closing lineup of either Tristan Thompson or Larry Nance at center, but then Larry Nance and Jordan Clarkson to both be on the floor as well. The big takeaway for me was that J.R. Smith did not close that game out. So he played some in the fourth quarter, but it's a weird closing rotation for Cleveland where I'm not confident Clarkson always gets the closing minutes, but I think more times than not he does here.
I mean, if that game's close, do you think J.R. Smith closes last night because of how he's playing?
Not actually, I'm not sure, but it was over. He was in over Rodney Hood. J.R. Smith was in over Hood, and then Hood subbed in.
Okay.
At the 4.5 minute mark. So if you take the bulk of the fourth quarter, it was Smith, Sexton, Nance, Nwaba, Clarkson, and I think you could very easily just replace Nwaba with Thompson.
Yeah. I'm going to have quite a bit of Larry Nance at 6,300 on FanDuel. I'm going to have quite a bit of Jordan Clarkson at 6K on FanDuel. Man, he started off I don't want to say slow because he was fine, but seeing JR and Nwaba and stuff popping off, I was like, oh God, this is going to end really poorly for me because I had 65% Jordan Clarkson last night.
Yeah, I did the same thing. And it doesn't help with him coming off the bench because you're scrolling through your lineups. Jordan Clarkson has no points, great. And yeah, he's still sitting on the bench.
Colin Sexton, 5,800 on FanDuel, 5K on DK. Laffy's boy.
Yeah.
I'll have him, I guess. I don't know. It's not exciting. He's much better on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel.
Yeah, I love the DraftKings price tag. Just because the minutes are there. His backup is Andrew Harrison. You're not concerned about him taking minutes. Sexton played 32.7 minutes last night, subbed out 3 minutes early. It's just a really confident, 34, 35-minute projection for him. We don't know exactly what we're going to get, but he is getting shots up, and there's not really any scoring on this first unit, outside of whatever Rodney Hill contributes. So there's certainly a spot for Colin Sexton to be productive offensively. It's a perfectly fine matchup. So I think that he's a really good play. I love this game, in general.
So do I. Clark in chat says, question for Josh and Adam. If the Cavs are supposed to be so bad on defense, then why aren't teams going off on them? I mean, they're the 27th ranked defense in points per possession. They are, I think is the answer. Yeah,
basically everything except like opposing point guards that operate in the pick and roll are just smashing people.
Yeah, it's
they also don't play particularly fast, so
correct.
That works in their favor as far as if you're looking at like total points allowed.
Yeah, you got to break it down a little bit.
Yeah,
like Cleveland has the 27th. They're 27th in pace in my numbers, so like it just seems a little bit different there.
Right. If they played fast, you would have like the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Like if the Cavs played the Sixers right now, who have the second highest pace in my numbers, like they would probably look really rough at the end of that game if it went according to plan, because they would pick up 6 extra possessions or something in that game.
And I mean, this is a big pace up spot for Cleveland as well. Like Washington's been playing pretty fast this year.
Yeah, they're at 100 possessions on the dot in my stuff.
You said how many?
100 is like my baseline for Washington, like just in general. They're 10th.
Yeah, like so far this season they're 7th, but I would expect them to slow down a little bit because they didn't play all their games with Dwight.
Mm-hmm. You want anything else from Cleveland? I'm going to have some David Nwaba, again, minimum salary on FanDuel, guy that plays minutes. It's just how it works nowadays.
Yeah, I think it's a FanDuel play. I mean, yeah. I can't confidently project him for more than like 18 minutes, even though he played 27 last night. He got 3 minutes that I don't think he would have gotten at the end of the game, and he only played like 9 first half minutes. I think that there's a lot of times that Nwaba doesn't hit, mid-20s in minutes, but if you can drop him and he's minimum price, then whatever.
Anything else from Cleveland?
Washington is the kind of team that guys like Nwaba are great plays just because they don't rebound, they turn the ball over constantly, they play fast. So if you are going to take a shot on guys like that, this is the team to do it against. I mean, the typical Rodney Hood, like he's going to shoot the ball a bunch, or he should shoot the ball a bunch. It's a good matchup. It probably won't go in.
There you go. Moving on, the Boston Celtics hosting the Chicago Bulls, and I believe this is the first time we've had this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you know off the top of your head. Celtics 111 implied total. Chicago Bulls 99. I believe this is the first time I've seen a total under 100 this year.
That's entirely possible.
So 12-point line for Boston. Boston is basically like the inverse of the Bulls. Their defense is terrifying. The Bulls is whatever the opposite of terrifying is. We'll start with Boston. Kyrie Irving, 8,900 on FanDuel, 8K on DK. It will be hard for Kyrie to find a better matchup than this. What do you want to do with Kyrie? Or what do you want to do? I guess let's pose the question even bigger than that. What do you want to do with Boston in general in this matchup against Chicago?
I hate rostering Boston in general just because they have so many different ways to beat teams, whether it's just stifling them defensively or they have, so many talented offensive players that can go off. So it's always tough for me to prioritize guys. And $8,000 for Kyrie, I think, is a really nice price. It's a really good matchup. But with how soft pricing has been on DraftKings this year, you can always find a ton of upside around this price point. So I still kind of doubt that I end up really prioritizing Kyrie over some other guys. Jason Tatum, I think it's a really good spot for him. But again, it's just like this team in general, I think, is priced pretty correctly.
I completely agree there. Marcus Morris on FanDuel, 5,300, 5,800 on DK would be someone that I would want to take a look at on FD. I've been getting a lot of Jaylen Brown lately. He's at 4,700 on FanDuel, 4,400 on DK. He's been regularly coming out as the best like point per dollar option out of Boston. It's one of those spots where I'm getting so much of him because his standard seems to be higher, but it doesn't seem like it's worth the money. So what's your take on Jaylen Brown? He's the guy that I can't put my finger on right now.
Yeah, I've been playing him a good amount just because I think he's underpriced for his upside. I mean, we haven't seen him. He hasn't played well this year. He hasn't produced well, but he still has a 20% usage rate. He's still getting, a fair amount of shots. He's still playing around 30 minutes a night when he's not in foul trouble or, playing just really, really poorly. So he should be able to beat that price, against Chicago. I think that he's the kind of guy that if he's going to be really popular, which I doubt just because he's been so bad and the slate's so big, I wouldn't want any part of it because he's volatile. But I love rostering guys like that when they hit their price floor, and he's at times this year going to go out and give you big games, and this is as good a matchup as you're going to find.
That makes me happy. I got 32% on my first crunch. Certainly not going to be anywhere near there because there's no way his ownership is going to be even remotely close, but I will be well over the field on Jaylen Brown. It's the Bulls. I'll take anybody. I'll take Larry Bird.
Well, and he also has plenty of opportunity for defensive stats here against Zach LaVine.
Yeah. Bulls turnover rate 21st right now. Defensively, not something that the Celtics do a lot, but that is a good spot for Jaylen Brown. Similarly, what do you think about Marcus Smart for 3,900 here on DraftKings?
I hate Marcus Smart in general. It's too cheap of a price tag. I'm not really sure. I'm sure value is going to open up that I like more throughout the day.
Yeah, I try to keep my eye on as much as I can when teams like the Bulls or the Suns are on the slate, and it's just like naturally everybody gets dramatically better because of it.
Right. Yeah.
It won't take a lot of hustle out of Marcus Smart to provide value on this game.
Right, exactly. If he's able to get to 25 or 26 minutes instead of 22, it becomes like a really good play, I think.
Yeah.
But who knows if he's going to get there because he's competing with so many different guys for minutes.
Am I crazy to love Terry Rozier at 4,100 on FanDuel?
Probably.
Okay. Just a minutes thing.
I just don't know how many minutes he plays.
Right. 4,100, against the Bulls, I'm just so I find so much appealing shit in anybody that plays the Bulls, and I would assume Rozier closes if it goes poorly for Chicago, and he will absolutely roast those assholes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's just I assume on an 11-game slate I'm going to end up with guys that I like as value more than Terry Rozier.
Yeah, that is probably quite true. It doesn't seem like he's getting anything more than 20 minutes unless someone is out.
Right, exactly. When they're fully healthy, you have him dealing with Marcus Smart eating some of those minutes. Obviously, Jaylen Brown, and then you've got the wing rotation affects Smart, which affects Rozier. When the entire wing is healthy, when Hayward's healthy and Marcus Morris is healthy, you can only get so many minutes of Rozier and Smart together. So it ends up having just kind of backing up into Rozier, and it's hard to get him more than 20 to 22 minutes.
I expect this to be a game where I'm aggravated that I don't have more Boston by 8:45.
That's a really good way to put it. That's how I feel.
By all accounts, someone's going to roast Chicago. They've got 10 guys that can do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're max entering, maybe a good way to approach it is to maybe overproject Boston players a little bit and then just cap, how many Boston guys you can get per lineup, because it's pretty unlikely that 3 of these guys all have monster games. But it wouldn't be surprising at all if Kyrie drops 50 or if Tatum goes for 45 or something.
Yeah, seeing Kyrie just do whatever he wants to whoever is trying to guard him
Right.
Archidiakono or Levine. I mean, like, there is nothing. Kyrie's probably licking his chops. Like, oh, I'm gonna fuck Chicago up tonight. This one's gonna be easy. I'm gonna get my mojo. Let's talk about Chicago, who is significantly better priced on DraftKings. Levine at 8,700, 7,900 on DK. I don't want to be anywhere near this. But if like no one is on him, I'd have more interest. But this is about as bad of a spot as it's going to get for Zach LaVine.
I just love the price on DraftKings. He's been so underpriced there really all season long, and then it's dropped for this matchup with Boston. And they haven't been great at stopping ball dominant scorers. Like volume scorers have actually had some pretty nice games against them, and they're coming at a discount because DraftKings factors in matchup more than FanDuel does. So yeah, I mean, if Levine's going to be really popular, then I'm fine not having him, but I just still think it's pretty tough for him to hurt you at $7,900 when if the game stays competitive, which obviously is a big if, but he's going to play 37, 38 minutes. He's one of the leaders in the entire NBA in usage rate. He picks up assists as well. He gets a little bit of a boost with Archidiakono in the starting lineup. I mean, like last game, he kind of had a floor game. He had 4 steals, which, helped, but he shot, 7 for 22 or something, 0 for 6 from 3, turned the ball over 7 times, and gave us 44 DraftKings points. It's just, I think, a mispricing for the role that Zach LaVine has.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's too cheap in a vacuum for Zach LaVine for what he does. He's on the floor so much and does so much that, the floor is pretty high. I just find it terrifying defensively. Everybody out on the floor is just dead set on stopping him from doing anything that he wants to do. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary spot. I mean, just kind of looking at who's priced around him, I would rather, certainly in cash games at least, and I'd rather play Bradley Beal for $400 less.
I'd rather play Kyrie for $100 more.
Yeah, I think that's really close.
Jacob Treadway said ball dominant scorers are usually covered by Kyrie, though, right? There's no way Kyrie is guarding LaVine in this spot.
I wouldn't think so.
He will be on Archie without question.
Yeah, there's no reason.
Not that they're guarding people, but I mean that's absolutely going to be one of these longer wings and not Kyrie.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't go back and watch it. I would assume Kyrie wasn't defending Victor Oladipo.
No,
or I think it was Devin Booker. It was Booker or Mitchell. Someone similar had a big game against them as well. But yeah, I mean, Bradley Beal for $400 less, at shooting guard, I'll take that. I think that tournament wise, upside wise, if you play Kyrie, playing LaVine with him is probably a really good idea.
That I agree with. Their ownership will kind of tell everything here too. Still no ownership projections out yet though, so once we get those, we'll take a quick look back. The rest of the Bulls, again, still too cheap. Wendell Carter, 5,700. Jabari, 5,600. Justin Holiday is on the Bulls. I can't imagine wanting to prioritize the Bulls unless you're trying to be contrarian. I don't get the sense that they'll have much ownership at all. So in that regard, you can get above the field pretty easily on these guys, but it is not for me.
No, I don't really want to go to the secondary pieces on the Bulls. Zach LaVine's where I would like to be. Yeah. I agree that Carter and Parker are too cheap for their upside, but I just don't really, especially looking at DraftKings pricing, Carter's cheap at 5,700, but Tristan Thompson's 58, Dwight Howard's 58. We haven't talked about 9 other games. So
yeah, that's a good point. I don't have anything else to add for Chicago.
No, me neither.
I got 1% Wendell Carter and 1% Shaq Harrison on my first 150 crunch for FanDuel.
Shaq Harrison.
Randomness gets you from time to time. I mean, that's his randomness is probably at 15 or 20%. So yeah. It's just, you get a trickle from time to time. Brooklyn hosting the Miami Heat, 108.25 and implied total for Brooklyn, 110.25 for Miami Heat. The Miami Heat team that does not have Jimmy Butler right now, although they should probably be happy that trade wasn't liked by Minnesota. Talk about Brooklyn now with no Karis LeVert, which may make Brooklyn sort of interesting today, or at least interesting for a day or two. D'Angelo Russell, 7,500 on FanDuel, 6,700 on DK. I mean, this feels like a good spot for him. He should get at least an extra minute or two. They need to reappropriate 30 of Karis LeVert's minutes. What do you think about Russell? Or let's just talk about it as a whole. Russell, Hollis Jefferson, Dinwiddie, Harris, Crab. Like, what stands out for you now that Karis LeVert is out?
Russell's the one where I expect to see the biggest boost. I think him and Dinwiddie, like Dinwiddie should see a couple more minutes as well.
Yeah.
But he was already playing, healthy minutes. But Russell's the one that I think it should have the biggest impact on, just because Karis LeVert taking that step forward this year. We had seen it impact Russell's usage. We had seen it impact his assist percentage, and now you should just have the ball in D'Angelo's hands more. You should also have him playing a few more minutes because Brooklyn, they insist on running this deep rotation, but they have, one less very important body to do it with now. For whatever it's worth, we got about 14 second half minutes from, wrong line. We got about 18 second half minutes from D'Angelo Russell against Minnesota without Karis LeVert. So, maybe we get 34 to 36 here, but I think that projecting him for like 32 probably is pretty safe. And I just think that not having LeVert out there, I'm trying to pull up his numbers now, but I think not having LeVert out there should make a pretty big difference for Russell.
Yeah, I love Russell here. I love Dinwiddie here. Again, a lot of these guys are just much better off on DraftKings. Dinwiddie at 4,900, like just getting those extra minutes makes it easy. Alan Crabb at 3,800, again, should be in line for a couple extra minutes. Just makes it easier. I have no idea what's happening in YouTube chat. They just keep naming players. It's just over and over different player names. Emacs a part of it. Ricky Pierce, Rick Smits, Hersey Hawkins, Sedell Threet, Vin Baker, John Bagley, D Brown, Eddie Johnson, Kerry Kittles, Avery Johnson, Keith Van Horn, I don't know what's happening. DJ Suave. Are y'all just naming random players? What the fuck? I agree. Yeah, I want to have a lot of Brooklyn here. And it's not as if the Heat are like an appealing spot to target, but they have to redistribute like 30 minutes across this team. So everybody is just sort of slightly underpriced. I don't know who it's going to be, but I want to have like a sprinkle of everybody here.
D'Angelo Russell's only played 47 minutes without Karis LeVert on the floor this season. Since last season, he's played 815. He has a 29.1% usage rate, 36% assist percentage. He's averaged 1.11 DraftKings points per minute without LeVert on the floor. For what it's worth, Dinwiddie with Russell on and LeVert off has averaged 0.86 DraftKings points per minute. But he also should get some time without either of them on the floor.
I have Russell in here at 1.14 today, so feels
there you go.
Pretty nice. Yeah, it's hard to not like Brooklyn right now until the prices re-stabilize. I'm also surprised that he's going to be back this year.
Yeah, I can't believe that his leg was in one piece and nothing was broken.
Yeah, just popped out there. I don't want to know what that feels like.
No, it's amazing to me that those guys come back and play basketball again. Like every time you jump, how are you not
terrified?
Just yeah.
I sprained my ankle in college playing pickup, and I feel like I didn't run right for like 6 months.
Right.
These guys will play like the rest of that day. I went to the hospital. I'm such a bitch. To be fair, I thought I broke my ankle. I didn't.
Yeah,
I was just a bitch.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Oh god.
Baseball, not basketball, but yeah.
Playing mini ball. That was the good old days. Rondé Hollis Jefferson, 5,200. Were you on board? What did you end up with 2 nights ago? I assume you got a lot of him in the scramble.
Yeah, I think my highest owned guys that night were at 40% because I liked so many guys on that slate. But Hollis Jefferson was at 40, Davis was at 20 or 30.
Yeah, that was a no-brainer for me. If it came up with 100, I would have been like, okay. Like
yeah.
Just as soon as Allen was out, it was like, okay, he's gonna have to play enough minutes that this doesn't matter.
Right, and he's such a productive player when he does play.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's completely dependent on Jared Allen for me tonight.
Agreed. You want anybody else from Brooklyn?
If Allen's out, Ed Davis.
Yeah, if Allen's out, Ed Davis and Rondé Hollis Jefferson for me.
Although I guess for what it's worth, Ed Davis he was productive, but he only played a few extra minutes then
He
you would.
never gets big minutes, no matter
Right.
what happens on any team.
Right. I was hoping, like, I didn't think he was going to get big minutes. I was hoping he'd get to like 24 or something. But they just played Rondae Hollis-Jefferson exclusively at center in that game. It looks like, yeah. Ed Davis and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson split 48 minutes. So I guess that's actually pretty unappealing for Ed Davis.
And very appealing for Rondae Hollis-Jefferson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty. We'll go to Miami, where I don't have much interest in anything. These guys are significantly better priced on FanDuel, however. Any Hassan Whiteside, 9,200 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I like Whiteside. I mean, if Allen's out, especially, like, you're getting rid of Jared Allen, but I think that Hollis Jefferson's a good defender, but I just expect that Whiteside, rebounding wise, should have all kinds of success. And I think that shot blocking wise, he'll have a really, really good matchup if Hollis Jefferson's playing the 5. So I really, 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 really like Whiteside.
I want to see where he's at in comparison to other centers. Drummond, $900 above him. LaMarcus Aldridge, $100 cheaper. I would prefer Whiteside in that spot, I think. Vooch, $200 cheaper. Gobert, $100 cheaper. So yeah, Whiteside I think is pretty clearly the best option in that little group of his salary, which should make him rise to the top. And it's obviously a good matchup, so that doesn't hurt either.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
The caveat for me would just be that paying up at center on DraftKings is always difficult because they just keep underpricing everyone.
Because Dwight Howard and Tristan Thompson are both $5,800.
Yeah, exactly. So with that caveat, it might actually be difficult to get him in lineups. But I love Whiteside. I don't have any issue with his price point in a vacuum.
Let's talk Richardson, 7,400 on FanDuel, 6,800 on DK. I think he's just appropriately priced.
Yeah, I think appropriate is the right way to put it. Like, I don't think he's too expensive, but when Goran Dragic is in, I think that takes enough ball handling responsibilities away from Richardson to decrease his value that I don't really get too much of him. And it's also worth noting that Brooklyn really is not playing fast this year. So, and they've been like middle of the pack defensively. So this isn't the same, like a couple years ago, Brooklyn was one of those teams where if you were playing them, you rostered the guy, but that's not really the case this year.
Do you want anybody else from Miami? Rodney McGruder's 4,600 on FanDuel. I would point that out. Wayne Ellington is 3,700. I would point that out. That's about it, though, for me.
Yeah, I mean, those are both fine prices, especially on FanDuel. I'm pulling up their game, their last game, to see if there's anything that stands out to me rotation-wise. I mean, 26 minutes for Ellington, 26 for Magruder. They had some weird rotations in this one.
They certainly did.
Really weird rotations. Don't take anything away from Whiteside playing 22 minutes. He was in foul trouble the entire game with Embiid. So, not the entire.
Kelly Olynyk being 3,900 on FanDuel is also still always appealing. Anytime that he's under 4K on FanDuel particularly, I have an interest in playing him just for days where he might get that minute jump.
He actually got a couple of minutes at center against Philly.
He would, and if Jared Allen is not in, he can certainly play center here against Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know why he played center. Like, it was only a couple of minutes when Whiteside got in foul trouble to start the third quarter. It was back to being Bam, but Olynyk subbed in for Whiteside in the first quarter before Bam did.
YouTube chat is still going with just individual player names. That's all it is. That's all the chat is just a laundry list of player names. Surprised people aren't just dropping out of this call or the show right now. Anyway, this is just not that appealing of a game unless we get news that more people are out. If Jared Allen's out, then fire up like a lot of Brooklyn.
Yep.
Move on. Toronto Raptors hosting the Detroit Pistons. I feel like I haven't talked about the Pistons in a while, but I definitely do, and I definitely recommend Andre Drummond every day. So anyway, 116.5 implied total for the Raptors, third highest of the slate. 106.5 for the Pistons. Both teams solid defensively from a fantasy perspective. Little bit of a gap offensively. Raptors third in effective field goal percentage. Pistons 29th. That's pretty atrocious.
Yeah, they've been pretty bad.
Start with Toronto. I'm going to be a broken record at this point. I feel like you're going to agree with me here too. Kawhi Leonard is $9,200 on FanDuel, $8,600 on DraftKings. I'm going to play a ton of Kawhi Leonard.
I'm not.
Ooh, not 8,600, really?
I don't play Kawhi that much. Like I did last slate. I liked the spot against the Pelicans, but I don't know. I mean, 86 is fine. It's just on DraftKings relative to everyone else, it's not that great. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's a bad price. I just kind of doubt that I get to a lot of Kawhi because I always end up projecting him for like 45 or 47 points. And I end up projecting a lot of guys cheaper for similar, and I end up projecting more expensive guys for a lot more.
So that's the interesting part to me, that you just named Kawhi's projection, which is basically right at my projection. And normally I would think like, oh, that's good, but I know where the rest of your stuff is coming in. So what makes Kawhi come down for you?
Well, right now I'm just going from baseline too, so I haven't adjusted anything.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I have. Let me see. I'll adjust it real quick so I can see what I would actually have him at. Yes, I mean, if I project him for 36 minutes, I have him at 47 DraftKings points.
Say that again. Sorry, Slack messaged me.
If I project him at 36 minutes, I have him at 47 DraftKings points. If I project him for 34, I have him at 45.
Okay. And that's crazy to me.
Which, again, I mean, it makes him a really good play. It's just that I have so many other guys that I end up projecting really similarly for less money.
What do you think is pinching that projection, though? Just, I don't know if you know what I mean, but like, just
no. I mean,
I know what our normal gaps are between our projections.
What do you have him at usage-wise?
29.
Yeah, that's what I have. 12 rebounding, 14 assists.
Don't have it in here to look at it quickly.
Yeah,
I should probably add that in just as a visual.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, even, I mean, the a lot of times it's assist percentage because I use expected assist percentage instead of actual, but that's pretty much the same for him too. So I don't know what it would be.
All right, so like, what do you have Ben Simmons projected for? He's $100 more expensive than Kawhi on DK.
And I haven't adjusted anything for Ben, but 48.5.
Okay, so like that makes sense to me. I have him at 42.9. That is the gap that I would expect in both of our models. So it's weird to me that you have Leonard where I do and not that big of a gap. So there's something missing there in between both of us where I get there and you don't. I'm just always trying to, figure out if there's a hole somewhere for me. Yeah, well, I love Kawhi.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really get there on him.
I can't stop getting there.
Which is obviously because relative to everyone else, I project him kind of low.
Yeah. And I'm probably way higher than everybody else. Like, I have him at 49 tonight on FanDuel, and Fantasy Cruncher has him at 39.
Yeah, I think Fantasy Cruncher is a little low.
Like, he has not been playing all that well, but he took 20 shots in the last game. He hasn't been as active defensively. Like, it's just 1 steal, 0 steals.
What'd you say you had him at on FanDuel?
I have 49.
I have him at 46.8.
Okay. I love the price too much. He's $1,100 cheaper than George. He's $2,000 cheaper than LeBron and $2,600 cheaper than Giannis. Look, and I understand all of that, but it's so appealing to me for a guy who is so efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any issue with Kawhi other than I don't think he's going to be in my lineups.
I just need you to talk me into it so I don't feel so bad about touting Kawhi every day.
Yeah.
That $8,600, like, I would have a hard time getting away from 86 on DK.
Yeah, I probably won't.
I just don't see anybody around that price point on DraftKings at his position that I would prefer to have.
Yeah, but DraftKings, it's so flexible with your roster construction that it doesn't have to be at his position. Like,
I mean at forward.
Yeah, I mean, I have just quickly glancing like at my baseline stuff. Paul George projected to be a better play. Julius Randle, if we assume that Mirotic is out. Larry Nance for way cheaper.
You have Larry Nance projected higher than Kawhi Leonard?
No, but I mean,
Just like in value wise. Okay, gotcha.
yeah, I have projected really similarly.
I was like, okay, we need to have a way bigger conversation now. I don't know how you're getting there.
No. I mean, the Wizards do suck, but no. Yeah, I mean, I have Kawhi on DraftKings right now. Basically, just, I mean, again, using baselines, but as like my 7th most valuable player. So maybe I would get some, but I just normally don't.
And that is the Kawhi conversation for today. I will have him a lot. Hopefully it goes a little bit better than it did the last time. Kyle Lowry, 8,500, 8,100. I'm not interested at all.
I'm good. I pretty much just play him when Kawhi's out.
I'm pretty much good on Toronto.
Yeah.
Jonas, I guess? The Jonas game?
I think Ibaka is in a pretty decent spot.
You don't think Jonas gets extra run because of Drummond?
I'm not sure. I've been terrible at predicting what they do as far as their centers go. They've seemed relatively willing to put Ibaka out there against bigger guys. And if it is Ibaka, Drummond should have trouble defending him, away from the basket. So I think it would be a decent spot for Ibaka if he does get the start. But his price tag has also come up, so it's not the easiest play to get to.
Sure. And it's just not that appealing of a game for me from a Toronto side outside of my love child, Kawhi Leonard.
None of these games so far have been very appealing to me.
They're really not. Let's talk Pistons. 10K for Drummond on FanDuel, 9,300 on DraftKings. Wow, we're at an hour already. Holy hell, this is going to be one of those. There are just so many better value center options, but I really do like Drummond here.
Yeah, I always like Drummond, and he's someone that does always pop up in my projections. Like, there have been so many times where we do a show, and I start to say, yeah, he's just so expensive, and then I crunch my lineups, and I'm like, oh, cool, I have 40% Drummond.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do that again. Like, I think he's relative to everyone else, he's really expensive, and I actually doubt that I'll get much of him today, just because of how cheap Howard and Thompson are, but also because Whiteside's really cheap. You have Towns on this slate. You have just a lot of centers, I think, that are really reasonably priced.
Agreed. What do you say about Blake Griffin? 9K on FanDuel, 9,400 on DK. That's a tough sell for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Lofty as far as I've loved Blake this year. Like, he's handling the ball a ton. He's essentially playing point guard a lot, and leads the team in expected assist percentage at 30%. Like, he's actually been running bad in the assist department. He rebounds really well. He leads the team in usage. So I love Blake. It's just a matter of getting to him at an expensive price point against a very good Toronto defense. If I just quickly changed his projection to what I would want it to be at, and I get him projected for about 50 DraftKings points. So I like him. I just don't know that, because as we've talked about, my projections tend to skew a little bit high. So 50 DraftKings points for Blake, at 9,400 isn't jumping off the page like it would be if it was 50 for you.
Would you rather have Blake Griffin or Kawhi Leonard?
Kawhi.
Okay.
I guess. I think it's really
all I needed to hear. There's only one guy on the Pistons that's really standing out for me, and that would be Ish Smith. He's $4,300 on FanDuel. Minutes are slowly creeping down, but I think he's just too cheap for what he does. And I'll probably have some of Ish as a value play.
What does he do?
I don't know. Score?
No, I mean, he's cheap. Like, I hate rostering any of the rotation, like the fringe rotation. Not that he's a fringe rotation guy, but for lack of a better word, the not like Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin part of the Pistons, just because that rotation's been so inconsistent this year. Like, sometimes you get Calder on more Calder on minutes than other times. Some days it's a Langston Galloway game. It's just been really difficult to predict, and I think that it makes it tough to trust Ish. I do obviously like how much he's been playing alongside Reggie Jackson. I do think he gets, at least 25, 26 minutes. It's just a really mediocre spot for me.
Yeah, that's all I've got. I don't have anybody else.
No, me neither.
Cool. Moving on. The Milwaukee Bucks hosting the Memphis Grizzlies, 112.75 implied total for the Bucks, 103.25 for the Grizzlies. So 9.5 point favorites for Milwaukee. We'll start with Milwaukee. Giannis, 11-8, DK, 11 flat. Look, I love Giannis. I'm going to have a tough time getting him against Memphis. He should. There's nobody out there for Memphis that's going to slow him down. I just think that Memphis as a whole slows him down.
Yeah, they play slowly, and they're a good defensive team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I still have Giannis as a good play because it's Giannis, but chances are on an 11-game slate, there's going to be so many, and especially with DraftKings, there's going to be so many just underpriced guys where it's not a necessity, and for, I guess for context sake, I have Giannis right now at like 60 DraftKings points, but you have to keep in mind that normally my Giannis projections are like 65 to 70.
Yeah, 600. Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time getting to anything other than a few like random shares of Giannis. It's just a bad spot to target for fantasy purposes.
Like I'll end up with Giannis if I would anticipate ending up with more Giannis if the slate breaks the way it did on Monday, where at 6:30 we end up with every value play imaginable being like 4K and being projected for 35 points.
Yeah,
that I'll have nothing to do but get Giannis in my lineup. But I kind of doubt that I end up really prioritizing him.
I'm on the same page. I don't expect to be prioritizing anything from Milwaukee. I don't have any real aversion to Middleton or Bledsoe, or I guess Brook Lopez on DK at 5,000 would normally be interesting if there weren't so many better options just in that price range.
Yeah, that's also a huge price bump for him. He's been like living at 42, 43.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really have any hot takes for the Bucks side of this game unless you do.
Nope. Whatever I get, I'm cool with. Like, I think they're fine. They're obviously a really good team, and where the production is going to come from. But it's just not a Memphis. I don't really target guys against Memphis.
Do you want to target guys for Memphis today?
I like Gasol and I like Conley.
Sure. I think everybody here is just crazy cheap. I think Shelvin Mack might even be worth a look. 3,800 on DK.
Yeah, those minutes have been nice playing alongside Conley.
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson too. Yeah, if Jaren Jackson can not hack Giannis every time he's in the vicinity.
Milwaukee 22nd in free throw rate. So, not that everything has to be a shooting foul, but it's always good to see teams that aren't getting to the line all that often if you're going to go up and try to play Jaren Jackson, because that dude is allergic to not fouling.
Yeah, he's been better lately, but still scary.
Yeah, he'll get there eventually. So yeah, I would happily have little bits of Memphis on DraftKings. Their prices are all better there. Gasol $1,000 cheaper, Conley $1,000 cheaper, Jaren Jackson $1,200 cheaper, Shelvin Mack is $700 cheaper. So the only guy I'll get some Gasol. That's about it.
Yeah, really good news that I'm happy about though is Kyle Anderson's price tag jumped $800 up to $4,800. So maybe I can finally stop having him hit my ceiling caps.
Yeah. When he was, I get way too much Kyle Anderson. I hate it so much.
It worked out the other day. I'm not complaining, but anytime I go into a slate with more than 0% Kyle Anderson, I never feel good.
No, I don't want it to happen. I understand why it's happening, and I suck it up because I understand what I'm doing, but it's not appealing. You don't want to cheer for it. You don't want to watch it. It all just sucks.
What ends up happening is I'm like the game starts, and I'm like, oh, cool. Kyle Anderson's only 8% owned at 4K. I'm in a good spot. And then I spend the entire night as I flip through my lineups going, God damn it, this one has Kyle Anderson in it. And then at the end of the night, it's like, oh, cool, he actually got there.
That all sounds familiar. All right, let's move on to a real game here. This is going to have big time fantasy implications. The Minnesota Timberwolves hosting the New Orleans Pelicans. Timberwolves 1.5 point favorites at home against the Pels. That's really interesting to me. I would have expected them to be bigger favorites against the Pelicans tonight, but they're not.
You said they're 1.5. I didn't
Yeah.
have the line.
Yeah. They're 1.5. Well, whenever I entered this, they were 1.5 point favorites. We'll start with Towns. 10-5 on FanDuel, 9,500 on DK, and the thorn in his side is no longer there. I mean, it's Karl Anthony Towns. I have no reason to not go here. Do you?
Nope. No, I mean, without Teague's questionable last I saw, but since the start of last season, with Teague on the floor and Butler off, Towns has about a 24% usage rate. He has averaged about 1.4 DraftKings points per minute. He's going to play Tibbs minutes, so it's really hard not to like him. And it's another reason why I think I'll have trouble getting to like Andre Drummond or probably even to Whiteside, just because there's the cheap centers and then there's Karl Anthony Towns.
There you go. Andrew Wiggins, anything? 5,700 on DraftKings?
Nah, I mean, it's a good spot.
Sure.
But it's also Andrew Wiggins. Whatever I get. He's not someone that I expect to really be prioritizing.
Agreed. No real interest for me in Derrick Rose. I think he's clearly way too expensive on DraftKings, especially now with 2 additional bodies. Not that Covington and Saric stop Rose or anything, but it's just, they're deeper now than they were before.
Right.
So Teague at 5,600, if he's playing, I think is a really nice price point for him on DraftKings.
Yeah, I agree with that. He played big minutes last game too, which
his price tag, man. That guy just makes bad decision after bad decision.
Right. His price tag was so cheap that it didn't matter. Like I projected him, I intentionally underprojected him for like 26 minutes and still got it on. But it was just like, he goes out and plays 36 minutes and then is immediately questionable for the next game because he's so sore.
There's a pretty clear play here, and that would be Robert Covington. 4,700 on DraftKings. I assume Tibbs just runs him into the ground as his de facto Jimmy Butler replacement.
I mean, if Brett Brown plays you 36 to 38 minutes a night, what's Tibbs going to do? Play you like 56? I mean, he's going to make him like run suicides after he plays all 48 minutes or something.
He should be probably the most popular play on DraftKings today.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's just an absurd price tag.
Yeah. He's 6,600 on FanDuel. I have no interest there. At 4,700, I'd probably have him in 80% of my stuff.
Right. I mean, and it's a good spot for him too. Like it's a fast New Orleans team that has been inconsistent at best defensively.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
I think this gave up a 30-point game to Dante Cunningham.
Oh my God, Dante Cunningham might have 30 points for an entire season sometime.
Right.
Do you want to do the same for Saric, 4,500? I don't think it's as appealing as Covington at 4,700, but just because of Taj.
Right. It's not as appealing because you assume he's going to split those minutes with Taj, and even if he's on the high end of it, and he gets 28 and Taj gets 20 or something.
Yeah,
it's nowhere near as appealing, but I still think it's a perfectly fine spot.
Yeah, agreed. These guys are much better off on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they seem to all hold their prices. So outside of Towns, I'm not really interested in anything in Minnesota. Talk about the Pels side of this game. 12,300 for Anthony Davis on FanDuel. 11,300 on DK. I don't have a problem paying the $12,300 price point for Anthony Davis here.
No, I don't think so either. And it's another reason why I doubt that I end up getting much Giannis, unless it becomes like an ownership thing. But Davis, I like the spot so much more for Davis. Do we have Mirotic ruled out?
Not that I'm aware of. I have him in right now.
Okay.
Then again, I've been wrong about that for the last 3 or 4 shows we've done. So let me at least look it up.
Probably yesterday or last game, and then didn't play.
First thing that pops up when I start to type in Roto World was actually Le'Veon Bell. So shout out to my wife for drafting Le'Veon Bell and never getting a single second of him to play this year.
Really good pick. But
didn't draft James Conner, but I think we've talked about this.
So I mean, I like Davis. If Mirotic is out, I like him a little bit more, but just because I think he gets a little bit more usage that way. But regardless, I think it's a good spot for Davis. I don't expect Towns to slow him down. I don't expect Saric or Gibson to slow him down. And this Minnesota team for years under Tibbs has had an issue with stretch bigs, and that's another thing working in Davis's favor.
Yeah. Both Peyton and Mirotic are questionable right now, so they are both projected in for me. Obviously, play more Randall, well, on FanDuel at least, play a lot of Wesley Johnson. If both of those guys end up being out, you won't be happy about it, but he's minimum salary, so that's sort of the stuff you're looking for. Do you want Drew 9K on FanDuel, 8,500 on DK? This feels like a much better spot for him now with Butler not being there and getting Covington instead, probably.
Depends entirely on Peyton for me.
Yeah, no Peyton. Sign me up for some Drew.
Yeah. I like Drew a ton if Peyton's out.
Now, let's say Peyton is in. How much do you want on DraftKings where he is $5,200?
A lot. I mean, assuming that he's with how long he's been questionable and they've held him out, I kind of assume that when he comes back, he's actually going to be good to go, and that they're not like going to play him 22 minutes or something.
Yeah, maybe the first game is just like a work back just to see how it goes, but even still,
I mean, I'll take the Jeff Teague approach and I'll project him for like 28 minutes, knowing that he could play more.
Yeah,
but I want to at least see that. That's generally my approach in spots like that. Is I'll run my projections with the guy at 26 or 28 minutes if they're clearly underpriced, just to see how much I get there. And if I'm getting a lot there, then I feel really comfortable and just
right.
On them.
Yeah. If you drop them down to 25 minutes and you still get 40% Elfrid Payton, it's like, okay, well then I don't have a choice. I have to play a lot of them.
Right.
Eventually the math like wins out. I don't have any interest in Mirotic whether he plays or not.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat there.
And I don't have any interest in Julius Randle if Mirotic plays at all. If Mirotic is out, it's good, but he's priced where he should be, sort of. So it's not something that I want to go crazy for. It's a good spot for him because he'll run right through Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Randle on DraftKings if Mirotic is out.
Yeah.
His price tag on DraftKings, it's like they just kind of went to like no man's land. He's, I think at 6,900, he's still cheap if Mirotic is out and he's going to play 33, 34 minutes. And he's egregiously overpriced if Mirotic is in. So it's kind of like they just hedged their bets and made it so he's either like going to be 40% owned or he's not going to be owned.
Let's say Mirotic is out. Would you prefer, rank these three: Dwight Howard, Tristan Thompson, Julius Randle?
Randle would probably be my first. Like I just love Randle so much whenever he gets minutes. Then Howard, then Thompson probably.
Okay. Good to know. Anything else you want to touch on here?
No.
Oklahoma City we go. Thunder hosting the Knicks. 8.5-point favorites for the Thunder. 112 implied total. Knicks 103. Third lowest of the slate. Got Paul George at 10-3 on FanDuel, 9,600 on DK. I have not been getting Paul George in these games without Russ, much to my chagrin in at least one of them, but I don't see it again today. I just dramatically prefer the other options at the high end of small forward than going to Paul George. Is he someone that you like on DK?
Not a ton when you factor in price. I've been having the same issue. Like I project him really highly. I definitely haven't been under projecting him, but I still haven't really been getting him just because of where he's ended up priced. It's the same reason that I always have trouble getting to Kawhi. It's obviously Kawhi's a little bit cheaper now at 86, but it's like the guys that are a little more, $1,000 or $2,000 more expensive, I have projected to score a lot more points, and the guys that are $1,500 cheaper, I have projected to be in the same range. So, I have George projected as a really good play here. I have him projected a little bit better than Kawhi, but I still kind of doubt that I end up with a lot of them.
Okay. Schroeder, though, 7,900 on FanDuel, 78 on DK. I think the price tag's probably a little higher than I would like on DraftKings. I really like it on FanDuel, though.
Yeah, I think it's okay on DraftKings. I don't think it's great. He obviously is coming off a really good game, and we expected him to turn things around. Like he had been running pretty bad in the assist department. His assist percentage without Westbrook was actually lower than his expected assist percentage with Westbrook. So that was something I expected to turn around. But still, the price tag's getting up there to where he is, second fiddle to Paul George in usage. George does steal some assists. So it becomes a really like borderline play for me now that his price has increased on DraftKings.
I'm trying to see if anybody else stands out. Jeremy Grant, 4,700 on DK is probably a price point that's too low for him. But there's not a lot to like here for Oklahoma City, in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah. No, that's where I'm at as well. I think that Steven Adams is still reasonable, but his price tags come up also to 7,300, and center is just so deep that I don't really see prioritizing him a ton either.
Yeah, it's so hard to pay like the correct amount for Steven Adams in any sort of situation, even if it was a really advantageous matchup, which this probably is, just because of how many other guys are what seem to be criminally underpriced.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want any part of the Knicks? I only have one spot that I want to go to. I'll let you guess if you can figure it out.
The only guy that my baselines like at all is Tim Hardaway.
It's not Tim Hardaway.
In general, I hate this team right now just because they have so many moving pieces and it's so difficult to, pin down what they're going to do. Like Noah Vonleh is a guy that I've been playing a ton of, but even his minutes come and go. So I don't have anything here.
Okay. It is Noah Vonleh for me. He is 4,600 on FanDuel.
Oh, yeah.
5,100 on DraftKings. He's the most egregiously underpriced guy on FanDuel relatively to DK. So Vonleh is a spot that I'm going to look to just because I think he's too cheap.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. And for whatever it's worth, like he played 22 and a half minutes against Orlando, but he also didn't step on the floor in the fourth quarter of a blowout. So I still think you get 28 to 30 minutes from him.
Yeah, if he plays 22 minutes, I mean, he's still like a point per minute guy. He's right around his value number there if nothing goes right. So
yeah, I'm actually adjusting my baseline now because he's projected way lower than I normally have him at. I don't know if something just messed up in it.
Okay. I don't have any other Nick that I want to name here. I mean, this is, maybe one of the 5 most difficult fantasy matchups. So I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, my baseline had Vonleh's assist percentage lower than I wanted.
Okay.
So that bumped him up a little bit to where he's like a positive play, but he's still not jumping off the board.
Clark in chat has finally a question. Not Clark in particular finally having a question, but something that isn't just a basketball player's name. He says, isn't Vonleh in a bad matchup? At $4,600, I just simply don't care.
Yeah, I really don't I honestly don't pay a ton of attention to matchups specifically. Like pace matters, defense as a whole matters to me, but pricing in DFS is just far and away the most important thing. And pricing and opportunity are the 2 things that I factor in the most. And then once I have a group of guys that I love their price and I love their opportunity, then I'll obviously factor in matchup more. Exactly.
Yeah, like is it a good matchup for Noah Vonleh? No, not really. Like the Thunder limit fantasy points by 7% better than average. Like it's one of the better rates in the league. But he's still going to play, and there are a wide range of outcomes, and it doesn't necessarily mean that 7% happens to just Noah Vonleh. He's not exactly the type of guy that gets like slowed down, so to speak. It's not like he's dominating the ball. He's a 15% usage guy. So it's basically, how do you think he'll do on the boards?
Right. And matchups obviously based into projections as well. Like if the matchup is the reason that I have Vonleh projected for 28 to 30 DraftKings points and not for more.
Yeah, like I have lowered Noah Vonleh's projection because of the matchup. He's still $4,600. Right. Yeah, it is scary. I mean, the Thunder are the best rebounding team in basketball, and it's not even close.
Right. Yeah, and I factor in matchup like with my exposures too. I mean, if obviously it's baked into his price, but if I still got 40% Vonleh on a crunch, I would pull it back because the matchup scares me.
What is happening here? I have no idea. I'm muting our Slack chat again. Anything else from the Knicks, or do we want to move on?
No, get off the Knicks as quick as possible.
Agreed. 3 games to go. Dallas and Utah up next. Mavs 104 implied total. Jazz 108.5. So 4.5 point favorites for Utah in Dallas. I only got one guy projected for more ownership than 10%. Actually, I've only got one guy projected for more ownership than 1%, which would be Donovan Mitchell. So the only piece I got on FanDuel for Dallas was 1% of DeAndre Jordan. So I'm going to throw to you a little bit more since some of these guys have better prices on DK. Do you have your eye on anything in Dallas?
Nobody really jumping off for me right now. Harrison Barnes' price tag jumped up to 5,500, so he's much more fairly priced. Like he was egregious at 5K against Chicago, but 5,500 against Utah is, pretty fair. JJ Barea is worth talking about just because I don't buy into his minutes at all. I know he played 24 minutes last game without Wes Matthews, but again, Dennis Smith Jr. played 24 minutes. That's not what I'm going to project to happen going forward. So I think maybe you could see some confirmation bias with people today because Barea played 24 minutes and had a good game last time out. But if Matthews is probable too, so I guess that probably won't end up happening. But still, like it's worth mentioning. Every single minute that JJ Barea played was as Dennis Smith Jr.'s backup, so that has to be factored in when you project minutes. You can't project like 30 Dennis Smith Jr. minutes and 22 JJ Barea minutes because like what people end up doing is they're like, well, I think Dennis Smith should play about 30, and JJ Barea has been playing 22 or 24 or whatever, but they're strictly at Dennis Smith's expense, so you can't project Barea for like 22 minutes here.
I have Dennis Smith at 28, JJ Barea at 20.
There you
go. Boop.
Yeah, nothing else that like I actually want from Dallas. I just wanted to point that one out because that's a mistake that just happens a lot.
I completely agree. Donovan Mitchell, 8,300 on FanDuel, 7,400 on DK. He's just a guy that pops up a lot for me. I will have probably around that number right now, 13%. Dallas, not a scary matchup at all. So I like Donovan Mitchell, and you could talk me into some Ricky Rubio for 5,800 on DK.
Mitchell's someone else that I've noticed I underproject. Not in terms of like his results. It's like not saying I miss on him a lot, but like he's one of those guys that even where I would say I want to play him, I look at my projections and I'm just like, oh, I'm not getting any Donovan Mitchell today. And I think this is probably one of those spots. Like I haven't projected to be I basically haven't projected it as if he's more or less correctly priced at 7,400.
What do you have him projected for?
38 DK.
Dude. Okay, so like something is up in my stuff then, or yours. I've got him at 41.8.
Yeah,
I mean that is we are way off together.
Yeah, that's really weird. And I think I actually rate-wise I had him over projected my baseline.
So you have him as less than a point per minute guy.
Yeah, which is weird. No, I've met exactly a point per minute. I've met 36 minutes now and 36 and a half points.
Okay. So I have him at like 1.07-ish and 36 minutes exactly. So, I mean, we're in a way we're splitting hairs, but at the same time, like I'm very surprised by that gap.
Yeah, it's weird, and I notice it on like just it's certain players, so it has to be the efficiency like that's built into the players.
Yeah, I'm taking a look.
It's always Donovan Mitchell. It's Kawhi doesn't even really project bad for me, but he projects low relative to everyone else. Mitchell always just projects as like not very good.
Interesting. I might have to knock Mitchell back a little bit. Now I'm getting a little nervous. That. Okay. Do you want anything else from Utah? It's not really that kind of spot for me.
Yeah, there's nothing that stands out to me.
Let's go. Phoenix and San Antonio. Suns 103 implied total. Spurs 108. 5-point favorites for the Spurs. Suns worst defensive team from a fantasy perspective in the league. Something to keep in mind as we get over to San Antonio, where everyone is priced well on FanDuel, and I am going to have a lot of San Antonio. Those are the nights that I don't normally like playing fantasy sports. Devin Booker, 7,600 on both sites. Sure. I think that's a pretty good spot for him. San Antonio is not the same as they usually are.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And attacking them has been perfectly fine this year. The concern I have is that TJ Warren being back in the lineup does take some usage away from Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Going back to last season when you take all the guys off the court that don't play there anymore, but you put Warren and Booker on, you get like a 28.5% usage rate for Booker. So that's not great, but the price tag has come down enough to where I think he's still a fine play. I just probably won't end up really prioritizing him, which does scare me in tournaments because he's the kind of guy that is always going to project as a much lower play than he would if you were strictly using ceilings.
Right. Do you want anybody from Phoenix?
I still think
Warren?
TJ Warren's too cheap.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and I actually like the spot for DeAndre Ayton. He's down to 6,400 on DraftKings. Throw him in that category with Dwight Howard, where it's just really, really, really cheap for him, I think.
I'm going to have a hard time getting on the DeAndre Ayton train.
Yeah, I know you hate DeAndre Ayton.
It's not that I hate him. I just think that he's getting projected as like what we think DeAndre Ayton's going to be when he's 25. And he just like he's been a really good rookie, but not like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he has the same ceiling as what we think his ceiling is 3 years from now.
Well, I agree with that. If he were 6,400 3 years from now, he should be like 100% owned, and then you take out a mortgage and get another 100%.
Yeah, I probably said that poorly. When he was 8,500, like that was a ludicrous price point for me.
Yeah, I think you and I actually pretty much agree on him. I haven't been as high on him as I think the field has for a lot of the season, and I've been paying very close attention to his price point.
Yeah.
But the price point now is $6,400.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he grades out as a really nice value. I would imagine that I would get some on DraftKings. I just try to pump the brakes. He's not what we want him to be quite yet. Most rookies are bad. Like at best, most rookies are average in the league.
Yeah, can't all be Marvin Bagley right out of the gate.
See, exactly. Now we're talking about guys that have talent. Let's talk about San Antonio. Everyone on here is too cheap on FanDuel. So I'm going to let it rip with all of my FanDuel takes. We'll see what we think. DeMar DeRozan is 8,900 on FanDuel, 9,000 on DraftKings, and he's playing the Suns. I love DeMar DeRozan.
I'm not going to talk you off of it. I'm not going to have him.
You wouldn't have him on FanDuel?
Probably. Like, he's cheaper on FanDuel than DraftKings.
Right. Like, would you rather have Drew Holiday or DeMar DeRozan separated by $100?
If Peyton, it depends on Peyton.
Okay. Jimmy Butler or DeMar DeRozan?
DeMar DeRozan.
This one I think will be interesting. DeMar DeRozan at 8,900 or Zach LaVine at 87?
DeRozan.
Beal at 87.
DeRozan.
One more. Mitchell at 83.
DeRozan.
Fire up that DeMar DeRozan. LaMarcus Aldridge, 8,400 on FanDuel, 8,300 on DK. I would like to have a decent amount of LaMarcus Aldridge. What say you about LaMarcus Aldridge?
Yeah, I actually have him projected for almost the same amount of points as DeRozan.
So do I.
Which is in part because of how low I have DeRozan.
And Aldridge is kind of in a wasteland in price on FanDuel. Like Blake Griffin is $600 more expensive than him. I mean, Aldridge is about as safe as it gets from a matchup perspective. The next closest guy below him is Aaron Gordon at 78. So I'm going to end up with a lot of Aldridge just because he makes a lot of things work. There's not really anybody within $1,000 either direction.
Right, exactly. He's for a while now, he's been a much more appealing FanDuel play than DraftKings play.
Yeah. Do you want to do anything with Derek White on DK at 4,700?
He projects as a really, really marginal play for me. I think that it's fine if you get there. I think a lot will depend on Elfrid Payton. I think a lot will depend on Jeff Teague and any other value that opens during the day. If nothing great opens up, I'm perfectly fine playing Derek White. I expect he'll play 28 to 30 minutes. If I give him 30 minutes, I end up projecting him to be a pretty correctly priced player, like projecting him for around 26 DraftKings points. But that's going to be pretty easy to beat if better stuff opens up.
Sure. Patty Mills is 3,900 on FanDuel. I will use him as a throwaway punt from time to time. Bellinelli, flat minimum salary. Is he playing enough for that to be feasible? 18 minutes. Yeah. I probably have him a little over projected from a minutes perspective now that I'm looking at it. We'll knock that back a little bit. Who's getting more minutes then?
Rudy Gay.
Rudy Gay out tonight, right?
Is he?
I think so.
I don't know. I hadn't seen that. Yes, he is.
Rudy Gay out.
Yeah, so that's appealing for everyone on this team.
I've got a decent, maybe that's why I had those minutes bumped. Talking myself in and out of that at the exact same time. It's like yesterday, right? Fucking Kyle Korver. Or not Kyle. Was it Korver? I think it was Korver.
Yeah, it was Corver. Yeah.
Yeah. In then out then in. No reason whatsoever. Nothing happened. I'm the worst. Yeah, I look, I love San Antonio here. It's really hard for me to not like them. The Suns are just that bad.
This is true.
I wish I had a hot take, but it's just like, yeah, play people against the Suns is really all that I can say.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that was good to see against Sacramento is that DeMar DeRozan still was facilitating, did still have the ball in his hands despite Derek White being back. I guess there was some concern that some people had after the first game where DeMar DeRozan wasn't really involved in the assist department, that he was going to just go back to being, purely a scorer, and that isn't what I expected to be the case just on, stuff that we saw in preseason and stuff that had been said about him. But we did see him go back out and start to pick up assists against Sacramento. So I do still have him projected to come in at about a 23% assist percentage instead of the 30% or whatever he's at right now. But he's still getting assists, so that's good.
Everyone on the Spurs that I have projected for minutes today, except for DeRozan, Aldridge, and White, are all under 4K on FanDuel. I'll soak up a ton of like sub 4K punts against the Suns and just hope that one or two of them hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's close it out. A late night hammer coming in an hour and a half after the Phoenix Suns and Spurs tip off. So should be a real crazy finish. That I'll probably stick around to see because the wife is out of town and I don't have anything else to do. Lakers 114.25 implied total. Portland 111.75. Lakers pretty firm favorites here against the Blazers. We'll start on the Lakers side. LBJ 11-2 on FanDuel, 10,300 on DraftKings. I don't get the sense that you're going to be playing LeBron James here. Am I wrong?
Probably not. And it has nothing to do with LeBron. It just has to do with Anthony Davis. I think that LeBron to me is a better cash game play than tournament play. And yes, I think you and I have the same thoughts on how we feel about saying that in general. But he's the kind of guy that, like, the minutes are going to be there. And more times than not, he's going to give you a productive game. It's just that with the way this Lakers team's assembled and how many ball handlers they have and how many, wings they have, like LeBron doesn't even have to play 38 minutes. He can play 34 to 36. We saw 34.3 in that game against the Hawks. So I just question his ceiling compared to guys like Anthony Davis that are going to play monster minutes and that are still more the focal point. I mean, Davis, I guess, is kind of a bad example because he actually has similar rates to LeBron this year. But like a Giannis, if you were in a better matchup, like he just has a higher ceiling than LeBron does because he's needed more and he does more in every department. So that's my issue with LeBron. I think 10,300 is too cheap, but I also think 11.3 for Davis is too cheap.
Yeah, I would much rather have Anthony Davis. I think there's a real ceiling there for him where LeBron doesn't totally have it. I mean, LeBron can always go for 35, 12, and 12. Like that's clearly in his DNA, but I think it comes a little bit easier, particularly for AD against the Wolves.
Right. And I think LeBron, like when LeBron goes out and puts up 65 to 70, you're not really surprised. You expect him to do it. Not all the time, but it's certainly something that happens pretty, relatively often. But Davis is like 65 to 70. LeBron game is like a 75 plus.
Yeah. Did you see the clip of LeBron's D from like a couple days ago?
No.
Somebody's dribbling at the top of the key, like getting ready to penetrate past, and instead of like shifting or doing anything, like they're throwing a kick out pass to the corner, LeBron just throws his leg out and like tries to kick it out of the air. He didn't even move. You gotta look it up. It's fantastic.
Did you see the Jabari Parker one?
No.
He was like, the caption was something about like when your 2K controller turns off. But someone had like a free run at the rim and Jabari Parker's on like the opposite side. And he just kind of like runs in place and doesn't like move.
That one I didn't see. I'll have to look at that. You got to see the one where he just throws his leg out. We'll watch those afterwards. I mean, I kind of like a lot on the Lakers, but I'm also kind of not all that interested. And I can't really figure out why. Brandon Ingram, the only guy that I'm getting with any sort of volume, 6K on FanDuel, 57 on DK, so a little bit more of a FanDuel play. Do you want to go to like JaVale or Ingram or Kuzma or anything?
No, not really. The only guy that I really have projecting is like above, like as a positive play on DraftKings is LeBron. I think that I do actually need to bump up JaVale a bit. So
Any
maybe
interest in Tyson Chandler at 34 as a full punt?
some. I just don't want to punt the center position today. Is the thing.
I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah, so I do like McGee's price tag on DraftKings has come down to 5,600. He played 20, just shy of 27 minutes against Atlanta, and he didn't close that game. So I think that maybe could have gotten a couple more minutes potentially.
Who did?
Right. Ingram, James, Kuzma, Hart, Chandler.
Okay, so they don't seem to be running anybody other than. Are they running anybody other than JaVale and Tyson Chandler at center? Should we be projecting those two guys to 48 minutes?
Yes. Okay. They played exactly 48 minutes in that game. Going from memory, in the previous game, I think Kuzma might have gotten like 2 or 3, but it wasn't enough to where I confidently was projecting Kuzma to play center anymore.
Okay. Like I've got them in for 45 total, which I think I feel kind of safe with.
Yeah.
3 stragglers if Kuzma does it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think that you can get 26 to 28 from McGee, which does give him a ceiling at 5,600 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
But, again, do I want maybe 26 or 28 from McGee at 56 when I can project 32 to 34 for Dwight and Thompson at 58?
Jonathan Isaac available to play today.
Good.
Agreed.
I would say he's an interesting value play, but I don't think I've ever gotten him right, so I'm just not going to say it.
I'm just happy he's playing so that I could really not pay attention to the Magic.
Exactly.
Let's go to Portland. Dame Lillard, 9,300 on FanDuel, 8,800 on DK. I'll make the joke again. Dame putting himself out there to be the point guard of the Lakers next season. What do you want to do with Dame here? I think he's too cheap, but I'm not really confident in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many guys on DraftKings this season where it's like he's too cheap, but I probably won't really play him. And I don't know. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about everybody in this like $8,500 to $9,500 range on DraftKings.
Yeah. Do we need to like recalibrate our brains?
It's for one, it's that they're just underpricing the mid range so much. But for two, it's that I think the pace has had an impact on stuff, and you just have guys with higher ceilings at like 6,000, 7,000, not higher than Dame, but like higher than we've seen in previous years with their pricing. And so, can Dame go for 50 to 60 at 8,800? Absolutely. But can, I don't have a great example on the top of my head, but can somebody at 6,400 go for 50 plus? They also can. So,
yeah.
I just end up Dame's someone that if I play 150 lineups, I want to make sure that I have, a good amount.
Right.
But I just don't think that he's going to be someone that pops in my crunches. So whatever I do get is going to kind of be forced in.
You made a good point there, and I think it's something that probably doesn't get talked enough about. Like, let's say that we say that everybody's ceiling is like 15 points higher than whatever you project them at. Like, just broadly saying that. Those 15 points create more value at 7K than they do at 9K and 10K. So when you're getting those quote-unquote ceiling games from the mid-range, it's changing everything now compared to what it was before, because you're naturally getting more relative value for that dollar than you did previously.
Right. And you're getting, and at the top, obviously you're getting less relative value, but at some point, raw points are still raw points.
Right.
And so it just ends up being like the guys in the middle, to me, just get squeezed out because so much has to go right for them to actually be an optimal play.
Yeah. Let's talk Nurkic, 8K on FanDuel, 65 on DK. This is another center that is priced in the mid-tier of centers that can smash a $6,500 price tag.
Yeah, I love Nurkic. I always love Nurkic, and that's here.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. It's a fantastic spot, and he's well underpriced compared to his FanDuel tag.
And the Lakers aren't playing small.
Right. Yeah, he's gonna. Barring foul trouble, he's going to have every minute with either JaVale McGee or Tyson Chandler on the floor, and that is why you want Yusuf Nurkic out there.
Yep.
CJ McCollum, my dude, 6,400 on FanDuel, 6,600 on DK. I don't get the sense that anybody's going to be selling him very hard on DraftKings, but for 6,400, I'm certainly going to be interested on FanDuel.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think the price tag on DraftKings is fine, especially if you're looking at ceiling. He doesn't project as great, but it's a spot where I would expect either Lillard or McCollum to have a good game, and I can get one of them for over $2,000 less.
There we go. Anything else from Portland? I feel like you probably have to pay a little bit of attention to Zach Collins.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up I can't find the last time they even played, but I wanted to see. We've seen Collins playing alongside Nurkic more frequently, which is actually really good news for both of them. I'm trying to see Boston. So yeah, I mean, we'd seen that, and it just makes it easier for Zach Collins to get to like 22 minutes. I still don't really see the need to play him on this slate. He played 0 minutes alongside Nurkic against Boston. Myers Leonard is in the rotation as well. Consistent. Leonard played 18 minutes. Collins played 20. Nurkic played 28. So yeah, it's just not a spot where I really want to go there. The pace of the game suits Collins because he's the kind of guy that can just kind of pile up peripheral stats. But I just don't really see the minutes here, and it's not a game that I expect to go. I don't expect Nurkic to get forced off the floor because it goes small, so I don't really see that being a path to Collins getting a bunch more minutes.
Yeah, I would just be interested in having a couple lines of Zach Collins on the off chance that Nurkic gets into foul trouble, because they're going to go to Collins, and if he's 3,800 on DK, he'll have no problem getting to value if he can get a couple extra minutes.
Right. Yeah, it's the Mason Plumlee play.
Yep, it is. Anything else you want to touch on here? Or are we done?
I think Al-Farouq Aminu is a little too cheap. I prefer Covington, no question,
sure,
at the same price tag. But I think you get 30 to 32 minutes of Aminu here.
Okay. Hey, he's a guy that I'm never happy about.
Oh yeah, me neither. He's just someone that he always pops in. If I don't mention him, I get asked about him, and then I'm like, yeah, I don't really like him. And then I make my lineups, and I'm just like, shit, I have Aminu.
Yeah. Like and subscribe, everybody. Quick plug. Hit that thumbs up button. Free trial, 7 days. NBA Strategy is the promo code. Jam that in. You can have you can check out all the stuff that we're talking about. Let's go through positions, and then let's get out of here. We're at an hour 47.
That's actually faster than I thought we'd make it through.
We're getting there, man. It took a little bit. We got it down pat now.
This might be the biggest slate of the season so far, right?
Yeah, I can't picture like a 12 gamer. All right, point guard for me. Oh man, it's really not great. Elfrid Payton's kind of screwing stuff up because I'm getting a lot of him because I have him in right now. But if I had to just take a look at who I would want other than that, if I had to take away all 65% of Elfrid Payton on my first crunch, I'm going to end up with some John Wall just because of the minutes. I have some interest in Kyrie. Moving down a little bit more. I don't know, Ish Smith. I don't really like point guard today.
Yeah, point guard sucks. All the guys that I am looking at are like shooting guards. D'Angelo Russell, I like. Mike Conley, I think, still too cheap on DraftKings, 68. Jordan Clarkson, I'll list as a point guard. I like Dame, I like Teague, but yeah, it's not a great position.
Shooting guard, the one and only DeMar DeRozan. I'll take some Donovan Mitchell. I love Dennis Schroeder. Jordan Clarkson, going right back to that again. Some Jaylen Brown. I'll have a little bit of Danny Green. I like full punting with someone like Marco Bellinelli or David Nwaba. Let me be more specific here. I don't like punting with David Nwaba, but I am okay with doing it now.
Yeah. I like Bradley Beal a lot. I do like Kawhi. Again, I don't know how much I'll get to, but I do have him projected as one of my better shooting guards.
He's a guard on DK?
Yeah, he's guard forward.
Oh my God. And you... Oh.
I still don't usually get him.
Jesus. I made that whole battle thinking he was like only small forward.
Yeah, no.
I didn't know you could play him literally everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. Beal, Kawhi, Levine, Holiday if Payton's out.
Go to small forward. I'll take whatever I can get of Giannis. My LeBron 65% is certainly going to come down, but Kawhi is the guy that I have my eye on here at the top. And then from there, we're going to look more at TJ Warren. Oh, God, not Kyle Anderson. I mean, I can talk myself into a little bit of Rodney Hood. I won't be enthused about that. Kelly Oubre, Mikal Bridges. It's more value for me. Wilson Chandler is another guy that at flat minimum on FanDuel should be owned quite a bit as a free square.
Yeah, Giannis, obviously, Paul George, Kawhi. I like on DraftKings you can get to Markieff Morris, who I think is really underpriced here. It's another pretty bad position, though. TJ Warren, I like.
Yeah. Power forward, Anthony Davis, hard to not love him there. Marcus Aldridge will probably be my most owned power forward. Larry Nance, Brandon Ingram, Noah Vonleh, a little bit of Kelly Olynyk. If we get any news on Jared Allen, Ed Davis needs to be paid attention to, as does Rondé Hollis-Jefferson.
Yeah, Julius Randle, if Mirotic is out. Anthony Davis, obviously. I like Aldridge. I love Larry Nance here. I think he should have a really big game. Robert Covington, forgot to mention, or at least I did, at small forward, but I'll take him at power forward.
Finally, at center, Karl Anthony Towns, no-brainer in my opinion. A little bit of Marc Gasol. Dwight Howard looks pretty appealing, but he's way more appealing on DraftKings. I actually got quite a bit of Jared Allen if he plays 6K on FanDuel. Mo Bamba if you want to punt the center position, but I don't think that's really appealing, especially if Isaac is coming back. I don't really care for center on FanDuel all that much today.
Yeah, they're in general, their center pricing has been really good this year. I really like Yusuf Nurkic, Towns, Gasol, Ayton, Dwight, Whiteside.
Yeah. Ask me again in Slack chat at like 6 o'clock tonight what I like at center, because there are a lot of different directions this could go. I feel like I'm just taking whatever center is left at that amount of salary for that particular lineup.
Yeah. And also, just check out the deeper dive today at 5 too, because just kind of looking through my projections, I have a feeling once I start crunching, this actually might end up going differently than I have it in my head right now.
There you go. Yeah, shout out to the boss man. Popped another 100K yesterday. Made me feel bad about myself. So
1v1 from me. It was a lot of fun.
I don't even want to think about that. 1v1 on a guy that you had.
Oh, yeah.
Not like, oh, I could have had this guy, but I didn't have him in any lineups. Like, no,
Yeah.
he's one of my more exposed players. So sorry for that one, man.
Yeah, happens.
Like and subscribe. Tune in. Check out the deep dive from Laffy today in the early afternoon. Check out the deeper dive starting probably 4:45 to get through this whole slate. Adam and Laffy breaking down each game, and then Chris Spags and Eddie Fear breaking down the slate from 6 to 7 live before lock. I may or may not be on DK Live again tonight. We shall see. So I'll let you guys know. Ooh, Tom in the chat. Not just one. He took down multiple 100Ks last night.
Nice.
Big Jam and Windmill. That'll work.
Yeah,
Congrats to the boss. Throw me a couple shekels, boss. I'm in. All right, let's get out of here. Best of luck. We will talk to you again. Well, I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. We'll talk to you again on Friday. Bye.